A little bit about myself. I'll keep this quite short and sweet. I think some of you have met me tonight anyway, but if not, I'm the co-founder, co-CEO of one of many. We've been going about 4 years. As I said before, background slightly nomadic, but in the last 4 years, we've kind of been working with some of these organisations, lots of fairly large banking and financial institutes, RBS, Citibank, etc. Some of that with product and technology teams, but also quite lucky to be working with actually non-technology teams as well. We do a lot of work with startups as well. We help companies scale. So some of the experiences I'll share with you today is around about how we help companies scale. So how can you work at both enterprise and smaller organizations? So some of these here are about 50, 60 in terms of size. And also at one of many, what I'm going to show you today is what we've adopted as our internal operating model. And we're currently about 17, 18 people. So something we've adopted with 600 plus people and something actually we've got working with 12. One thing we're very privileged to do, I think, is be able to go and listen to lots of people talk all the time. That's the big thing I really love about our job. I think we're very lucky to hear stories. You know, people share those stories, and then hopefully what I can do is come and share some of those stories with you. 4 big things that we're seeing at the moment. One big problem is delivery. Wherever we go, everyone's got the same problem. They're not buying Agile, they're not buying OKRs, they want to deliver more stuff faster. Those pressures come from numerous areas. If we're working with startups and scale-ups, maybe they've just got investment. So if I've gone for Series A funding or moving into a round of Series B, they want some certain deliverables. There may be things that the owners of the business have signed up to or said, I need to do these things in order to get the cash. Or every year they've got to meet the board again and explain to them what they spent the money on. Normally it's in the format of deliverables. So that's what they're being held to. So quite hard for them to express things differently because that's what they've sold and that's what people are buying. Next one we see is a lot of software developers burnt out. Just curious, how many software developers in the room today? How are you doing, sir? Hopefully not burnt out, you're having a nice relaxing night. But lots of people that we're working with, there's lots of that going on there. Most important one is the high workload. You know, and then we get in and we speak with the C-suite and we ask the question, what are you trying to do? And the answer is, we want more stuff, faster. And we go and meet the developers and we ask them, like, we're overworked, we're overburdened, we've got too much going on, too much process, too much everything else. Lots of inefficient processes, but the one that comes out a lot, about 29% of this, is unclear goals and targets. So those who are down at the front line doing the good work don't actually know why they're doing it or what they're trying to do it for. Data as well, we're supposed to be in a data-driven economy now. Data's the new gold, etc. But the vast majority of people we're meeting, I don't know what your experiences are, but we've either got too much of the wrong data or too little of the right data. And that's making life very hard for everybody. They don't know where to go or what to get. And finally, you can't speak up. Engineers can't really speak up or talk. Speak truth to power is a great one I like from Tobias. Tanner told me a good story about a company he was working at. I think it's disappeared. Will anyone do PI planning where you do sort of the confidence vote? So the team said, we're not very confident. We're going to vote a 2 for this. See leadership come over, have a chat for 10, 15 minutes, go back, and all of a sudden it's a 5. Interesting stats on this one, by the way. A lot of it's come from Haystack, which is a great place, but fear of retaliation. You know, that's quite a heavy thing, but that's 59% fear of retaliation if they speak up. So we're not creating the best conditions really for success in how we work in our organisations, and part of what we think is that the systems that we set up are incorrect in the first place. So what we've got here is normally most organisations have 3 levels of strategy that we're kind of looking at, is how do we communicate our intent? What are we trying to do? What are we trying to achieve? Most of the measures of success go with quite sort of traditional ways of management. So at the very top level group strategy, it tends to be, are we within budget? And are we within delivery adherence? So am I getting the things that I want? And is it costing me what I'm expecting? A lot of that comes through stakeholder pressure as well. So a lot of stakeholders don't understand any other way of communicating. So they go with what they know. They've got there for a reason. Some of this can, particularly if you're in a scaling company, come from the VCs. On our board, we have 2 VCs who advise us quite a lot, and we know what VCs are interested in, and normally it's not the types of things we in the Agile community would like to talk about. Yeah? So they don't understand it. So perhaps a bit of education needed here to help with change. That then gets pushed down into functional strategy, and again, it just gets a little bit more direct. It's cost management, it's delivery management, and business case adherence. So most people get their money by writing a business case. So I don't know how many people live in long living continuous teams. If you are, well done, great, you're privileged. A lot of the companies and organisations work with that isn't happening. Most people don't even see the budgets. It's managed here, and that's what you've got to, that's what they need to focus on. So by the time we get down to a team level, what are you left with? You're left with very little movement, really. It's all around feature delivery. And there's a really great piece of work done by Kellogg University which shows the mental model that created this situation is that actually at strategy level, CEO level, C-suite, it's really easy. Best job in the world because primarily increase market share, reduce cost, increase profit. Speaking as a business owner myself, it is quite easy for us to come up with the key results and measures, the things that we want to focus on. Where it gets really hard is when we get down to a team level because we tend to say, okay, if you want to do something, give me a business case. Let me know what the project is. Tell me the resource needs. I love that as well, resource. Can we say people? But no, resource needs, costs, timelines, feature lists. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to make a contract with you now. You're going to give me those things, I'm going to make a contract with you, and then I'm going to ask you to manage the activity. So please make sure that you're writing code correctly, make sure the right people are managing the code. Ever worked in a scaling company where the head of engineering, make sure that every code commit goes through him, becomes a bottleneck to make sure the code quality is correct, because he's bonused on it. Not allowed to make mistakes. Testing as well, and the managing of delivery, so with the delivery managers, project managers, I used to be one by the way, so I know what it means. Ever turn up to a program board meeting and say you're red? I did that once, never did it again. Always re-baseline, go to green, do whatever I can not to be honest about the situation, right? So we're kidding ourselves a little bit, and then at the end we get some outputs, we get some features, and nobody knows what the outcome is. We don't know if it's actually doing these things or not, but we've done what we said we'll do. And then to make matters worse, what we probably do is put some performance management over the top and then bonus you to deliver those outputs. So, of course, what else are you going to do? You'll deliver it. So the first thing I want to share with you now, how am I doing for time, by the way? Just shout at me, Alex, if I'm going over. Most people are probably familiar with PDCA, so plan, do, check, act, like a cyclical thing that we can look at. So what we tend to start with leadership and teams is to think about it from this perspective. What's your strategic intent? Where are you trying to go? What are you trying to achieve? If we can then understand the initiatives that we're working on, we can then map those initiatives to the strategic intent and make sure there's a high level of cohesion there. If we know there's a high level of cohesion there, the next question that normally gets missed is then to say, well, how will we know? And that's the bit where it generates insights. But rather than just running a project or running a program or doing some work and then figuring out afterwards, what we're asking people to do is to think about it up front. So if you do this thing, how am I going to know whether it's successful or not? So give me a value slice in the next 3 months of the outcome and the change that's going to happen or the business value that I'm going to create, and give me the answer to that. And then over the next 3 months, what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure it. And I'm going to have a really, really fast feedback loop letting me know whether we're achieving that or not. Now, when we arrive with a lot of organizations that have got these big initiatives, a good example is a company working with recently, migrating to Snowflake. What are they trying to do? Move services, move structure, move users. So we start asking the question, why? What are you learning from that? So a good one was they wanted to increase the use of data in decisions. Well, how are you going to measure that? We don't know. So let's think about that. We create some insights when we spend the next 3 months measuring it, and that will let us know if we're ambitious enough or not to achieve the strategic intent. Have we managed to help the company become more data-driven? Rather than building it and then afterwards saying, well, we don't care because we built it. Yeah, so off we go. Key thing here, though, is delivery management is really difficult because you can't just get rid of it because of what we described earlier. It's too much of a change. We've made some contracts. Leadership are under pressure. They still need to be able to commit to delivery. So keep the delivery stuff there, but try and do incremental value realization. Every 3 months, here's the value that we're going to release that lets us know we're going in the right direction. So stop thinking about deliverables and manage them together. We're still delivering this stuff, but we're also going to report on the impact that we're creating. Challenge with that, though, is if you just come in and do that, there's a whole bunch of stuff that's missing for people. So what we'd like to say is there's a simple set of things that you can do now that helps you go on that journey. So the first one is company-wide strategy management. We talked about OKRs. This is a talk about OKRs. I'm not teaching OKRs. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But hopefully everyone in the room is familiar with OKRs. It's objectives and key results. It's a strategy management framework. It's really very useful for managing the outcomes and the business value you're trying to create. So we want to try and bring that in. And the way we do that is by having these conversations initially and using the framework to frame the outcomes that we're trying to achieve. But a lot of organizations, particularly scaling organizations that we work with, and also actually very large organizations, don't have business portfolio management. They actually don't know what they're trying to achieve at the top of the house strategically, and therefore they can't know what's happening elsewhere within the organisation. So one good thing to do to help them understand what you're delivering is just get the group together, the senior leadership team, and ask them to document out what are the company-wide initiatives that you're working on. Just codify that and get it somewhere so we can start understanding what that looks like. Be amazed at the different scales we have with that problem. Value realisation in the engineering teams, your ways of working, you've already got Scrum, hopefully, or you've got some way of working at a team level. We're all agilists, so won't go into that too much, but keep it. Don't amend it. You don't need to change it. Continuous improvement. Don't see this in many organisations, so I'm a massive advocate for it. Every 2 weeks, get people together looking at the systemic impediments in an organisation. What are the things that stop us from doing what we really want to do? How do you raise that problem? How do you get that sorted out within the organisation? So we want to change and change quickly. We need continuous improvement. And I'm surprised at how little companies use risk and issue management. So the patterns that I want to leave you with today is just some simple things you can implement immediately now wherever you are that will help you move towards outcome ways of working and to adopt OKRs. Start with leadership. Every month leadership should do a strategic review. So that's looking at the OKRs, the objectives and the business portfolio. And then the following week do some strategic planning. Get them to then think about, given what we've learned, what do we now want to change? And get them doing that every month. What you can do here as well is use a Gemba, a virtual Gemba. Get teams to come in and start talking to leadership so leadership can start understanding what's happening on the front line. This we found very, very powerful. The vast majority of companies that work with leadership don't even meet. So just get them meeting once a month, get them looking at the OKRs, get them looking at the business portfolio, bring the teams in. It's amazing the impact that can have. Teams, if you adopt OKRs every 2 weeks, just doing a bi-weekly check-in. If you're working Scrum already, fantastic. You've got a retrospective every 2 weeks. So just use your OKRs in your retrospective and make sure you set up COPs and the continuous improvement we talked about earlier. But a few things to remember. Make sure there's a connection between a senior leadership team and the OKR process. So get the senior leaders involved in it if you want to adopt OKRs. Make sure they live and breathe it. They need to have a normative experience. There's nothing better than a leadership team thinking we've got all the answers and we know what's happening. And then a month later they look at it and go, oh Christ, we didn't. Yeah, we didn't really know this stuff, we're learning. And then they have a normative experience and they tend to enjoy it. So don't try and overbake it too much of process, just get it going. Use the Gemba, get teams to come in and present their OKRs to leadership team. That's fantastic. The amount of learning that happens during that process is amazing. And finally, don't remove the things that they need. So just incremental change, yeah? Don't go too far, get buy-in. OKRs is weird if you're adopting OKRs in a company and nobody knows who manages OKRs. You might have an external coach come in maybe or somebody else, but there's nobody else in the company that does it. If you adopt Scrum, Safe or any other framework you want to, you've got roles all over the place. But with OKRs for some reason, it's okay, I read the John Doerr book, let's implement it. How many people have had that happen to them, by the way? A few laughs there, yeah. A lot of companies we go in, we sit down in the C-suite and we say, you've got OKRs going and it's a bit of a mess. They're like, yeah, how did you get there? Well, we read the John Doerr book. Brilliant. And then what did you do? Well, we implemented it. Cool. Did you get any help? Is anyone in charge of it? Is anyone running it? Well, no, we don't need those things, do we? You do. Same like you do in Scrum or other things. If you want a system to work, you need the right people in the right places to help with the right things. So OKR champions is not enough. So for me, champion is someone that works on a program, kind of goes around walking the floor, championing. Great, everyone happy. Yeah? No, I want a coach. I want a system coach. I want some people that are going to own the implementation and take responsibility for it. So that's the other thing is what we tend to do is use a software platform and in there you allocate the owner to the OKR and then that person's now responsible and everyone else goes back to their day job. That's no use either. So don't create pockets of ownership, create a collective whole. So when we train, we call everybody an OKR creator. So if you train with us, every single person in the company is an OKR creator. That creates accountability and ownership. So, hard to drive ongoing improvements if people don't take ownership and accountability. I'm going to try and move on because I think I'm running out of time. Final one, we have a saying here at One of Many, we should open this, we should create our own champagne, shouldn't we? We should get a champagne brand going. You do that. Measure the success, drink your own champagne. Sounds a bit meta, but create OKRs for the OKRs. So if you're implementing OKRs, have OKRs that let you know if it's going well. It's a system change. So we've been caught a few times in the middle of a transformation. We get a year in and someone says, what value have you delivered? Well, I've coached a lot of teams. We can write user stories. We can do various, but I can't tell you the value that I've delivered. But with OKRs, what I can do is I can start actually telling you these 4 things. Perceived value. So I can go to the company every quarter, every month, and I can do a survey and I can ask you how much value you get from this compared to previously. Is it helping the company? Because if it's not, stop it, or we're doing it wrong. OKR insights, how good are the hypotheses? So the other key thing here is that ability to stop investing in things that are going wrong, but are we ever doing it? How many here have ever stood up and said, let's stop a project? Well done. You're in the minority, 100%. But again, politically expedient and not good to cancel projects. But it's crazy. We keep spending the money and wasting the money. But OKRs gives a really good way of saying, actually, are we learning? What are we learning? Very quickly. Finally, performance, quality, breadth and depth of the OKRs, any use. And the last one we like is committed and aspirational OKRs. If you tag your OKRs as committed, i.e. stuff that's delivery, and then you tag the stuff that's outcome or hypothesis based, every quarter you can go through the business and say, where are we? How much is just doing work and activity? How much is experimenting and learning? Up to any organisation to figure out what's good for you. You might be 80% experiment, 20% delivery. You might be 80% delivery, 20%, but at least you know. So it's now a good feedback mechanism to understand where you are as a business. So that's my final third tip. Find out some more. We did write an OKR method. We haven't really talked about it too much, but it is available online. I think it's the world's only open source OKR method for how to implement OKRs in an organisation. It's open source, so have a read. Feel free to reach out to us, help us evolve it. We are looking for more people to join in and use it if it's of value. Very similar to Scrum and how Scrum's evolved, so we can get a movement of people that use this. Please do. 11th of April, we are training on all of this, so I haven't gone into too much detail today. I've done very high level. If I've piqued your interest, have a chat with me afterwards. Or, even better, come and visit us again in our funky little space and get trained, probably by Erin.
It's going to be me.
It's going to be Erin, yeah. So if you know Erin, you like spending time with Erin, I think a few already have, come and spend more time with us. Use that code, Agile London OKR, on the app for Meetup. We've got online training if you're interested. Again, reach out to us at Erin. We'll give a special code for Agile London. And the final one, of course, feel free to connect to me and chat to me on LinkedIn. That's it. Thank you very much for listening.